I've chosen Dubai for its outdoor activities. It's a luxurious lifestyle. It's just, there's so much to do out there.
It's secure, it's safe, it's a great schooling system.
We wanted something with lots of green open spaces, where our children can go out and play.
دبي أفضل فرص أي شخص agency دبي أفضل.
Beaches are really nice. The infrastructure out here is next level.
Dubai offers tremendous potential for real estate, and you can be sure that you can get a good return on investment. I would say currently it's a good market to buy a property.
It's a great place for family, and it's a great place to invest overall.
أنا سعيد جدا إني طلعت منزل
It's a great place to invest.
ومتأكد إن دبي المكان الأفضل.
It's definitely the place to be.
دبي بيت الثاني.
It's definitely the place to be.
دبي بيت الثاني.
It's definitely the place to be.
دبي بيت الثاني.
It's de-
Salam, greetings to all. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Karen Bizoan and I'll be your MC for today. I welcome you all to the third edition of Invest in Dubai webinar series, a platform focusing on real estate investment where we will discuss all the various reasons that Dubai is the investor's chosen destination. Invest in Dubai Real Estate is a joint partnership between the Dubai Land Department and the International Property Show. Invest in Dubai Real Estate is a global platform which bestows a gateway, allowing growth for investors, business owners, financial service providers, government sectors, real estate, and many others. So bridging the gap between those seeking growth in their businesses for long-term rewards and reaping the potential benefits. The future of Dubai communities redefining is our today's topic. So redefining the living experience in Dubai, and the session will discuss the future of urban living in Dubai, redefining the living experience, attractive packages for investors and buyers, integration of sustainable solutions and technologies within the community. So just a few housekeeping notes before we get started. If you experience any issues with your audio or video during the webinar, just refresh your browser and that should take care of everything. If you have any questions during the presentation, please do feel free to post your questions on the chat box as we will have a Q&A round with our speaker at the end of the presentation. So today we are joined by Mr. Karim El Jizer, Chief Sustainability Officer of Diamond Developers. Mr. Karim combines resource management, climate change, and urban development. After 20 years in conservation management, he shifted his attention to making cities and communities more livable and climate-proof. He's based in the Sustainable City in Dubai, an award-winning master plan community where he manages a global platform for advancing knowledge and sustainability in the built environment. And so, Mr. Karim, the stage is yours.
Great. Thank you, Karen. Thank you very much for the invitation. Invest in Dubai. We appreciate the opportunity to participate, to share our experience and our views in relation to the future of communities in Dubai. So I shall now share my slides, my deck, for everyone to follow. And here it is. Karen, does it look okay?
Yes. Yes,
All right. I'm just going to remove this little window. There we go. All right. So yes, my name is Karim. I live in the sustainable city in Dubai since 4 years. I came to Dubai about 5 years ago, discovered this drive to increase ambitions in Dubai, and also this drive to make communities more sustainable and to enhance the living experience for all. But before I talk about the future, I thought it would be fitting to talk about the past. And leading up to the pandemic, which we have now all been experiencing, and as we gradually migrate into the new normal, I thought it was fitting also to talk about this momentum and this drive that we have been experiencing in Dubai and in the wider UAE. Because Dubai, for a number of years now has been developing, has been polishing and releasing strategies and commitments related to urban development and sustainability. So there's been quite a bit of momentum in the past, I would say easily 5 years. And the most notable of those commitments is to transform Dubai into a city with the world's smallest carbon footprint by 2050, which is such a challenge, and which to most people will say, well, this is the most unlikely city in the world to be able to reduce its carbon footprint. And yet we see advances, we see changes, innovation, technology embraced every single day, new announcements, and we see also the ambition increasing. This slide shows you just across the board from a community perspective. So if we think of the built environment, across the board, we see innovation and we see strategies. So whether it's about food, it's about energy, it's about water, it's about building materials, about mobility and waste. Across the board, we see those commitments being made. Just to highlight a few, food security strategy for the UAE was announced more than 2 years ago. It continues to be enhanced, and now again, due to the pandemic that we have experienced, there is much more focus on food security. If we look at energy is all about reducing our energy footprint and thereby our carbon footprint as well through demand side management and renewable energy uptake. If you look at mobility, for example, we have firm commitments in Dubai and an ambition to achieve driverless transport. In fact, 25% of total transportation trips will shift to smart and driverless transport in the coming decade, and so on and so forth. So all of that was already on the table, was already progressing. And so in many ways today, with a bit of hindsight, the COVID-19 pandemic and related containment measures have in many ways accelerated this transition. Not much is new, but all of these commitments and strategies have now been accelerated. And that's the challenge and that's the opportunities for living in communities in Dubai. If I zoom in on the COVID experience, and we're still not out of the woods, but the numbers have been declining steadily in the UAE, so we are on a good trajectory. I wanted in one simple slide to show you what did we all experience in Dubai and much of the world. So that's the impact, and what was the response. So from right to left, because initially this was designed in Arabic, we all experienced office closure. Well, that translates into now home working and the attractiveness of home working even after the pandemic. School closure, now gradual reopening, but we experienced for some time homeschooling, and homeschooling seems to also persist and continue even after the pandemic, or some kind of blended format. From restricted movement to online shopping, from sports facilities closure to working out at home, and from panic buying, which was experienced during the initial days and weeks of the pandemic, to growing food at home. And then most importantly, we need to think of the people and the mind. And so the isolation that came with the pandemic and the lockdown obviously had a toll or an impact on mental health. And how can we come out of it? By building a sense of community and volunteering. So the impact is something we've all experienced, and communities in Dubai are shifting to accommodate those impacts through various responses. And if we want to put all the great ideas together, it goes back to basics. Most of us perhaps are accustomed to talking about people, planet, and profit, the 3 Ps. Well, what about social sustainability, environmental sustainability, and economic sustainability? This is really what communities in Dubai are faced with, and in the rest of the world. And noteworthy strides have already been made in the UAE to achieve social, environmental, and economic sustainability. So on the next slides, I would like to share our experience in the sustainable city on how to achieve those and how to enhance those post-pandemic. So for those of you who haven't heard of the sustainable city, it is a master plan community. There are more than 100 master plan communities in Dubai. This one is 46 hectares. It's a freehold mixed-use development. And it was designed and built after the previous global financial crisis of 2008, based on the 3 pillars of sustainability, which I just mentioned. You're looking at the master plan and some numbers on the right side, some industry awards. Occupancy until 2019 was 92%, and this was only 2 years after completing the project. Jobs created in the community, because communities is not only about living, it is also about job creation. And visitors, simply because of its pursuit to become the most sustainable community in the region, this has become a source of attraction and learning for many, many people. More than 10,000 visitors walked into the community in 2019 from government, academia, professionals, etc. And this ties beautifully with Sustainable Development Goal 11, which is one of 17 SDGs about sustainable cities and communities. If we zoom in on the master plan, we see that it is a mixed use, and this is really the future of master planning and communities in this part of the world and much of the world, which is to design mixed use community. This is something architects, designers, urban planners have been saying for decades, but the challenge is really in the pudding. You know, how do we achieve a mixed use development? And mixed use in Dubai is perhaps not the same as mixed use in Abu Dhabi, perhaps that's different from mixed use in Oman, and so on and so forth. In our case, it's about, we have 5 clusters. So the size of the cluster had to do with wellness and a sense of community. It's not too big, it's not too small. It is about having an urban farm in the middle. That's number 2. It's about having a nice buffer on the boundaries of the plot and the ring road, which offer many sports amenities and services. It is also about non-residential facilities, such as an autism village, a school, an institute, we have a mosque, we have a mixed use, etc. So many components, and an equestrian center, number 10. Many components come together to create a community, a dynamic, a vibrant community where people can live, work, and play in harmony with nature, I should say. And so now I'd like to zoom in a bit more and drill down into how can we work together to enhance social sustainability? How do we make people happy? How do we make people content? How do we provide for the needs of people? How do we engage people in a community? And this is an aerial view of the sustainable city. Well, communities, it's really about the people. The sustainable city was the recipient of many awards, including the Happiest Community Award in the Gulf region, because there was this focus on people and creating spaces. It's about maximizing the use of the public realm. The public realm is really sacred to people, and we have to use it wisely and maximize benefits to all its residents. We have a farmers market, we have artwork, we have outdoor play, water fountains, etc. People congregate on the weekends in the sustainable city and other communities as well in Dubai, so that it is not only a place where you simply go to sleep. No, it's a place where you can also engage in activities. Equally important when we talk about social sustainability, and Dubai is really at the forefront of fitness. It's about how do we create that sense of, community sports and wellness. So it is about providing facilities indoors and outdoors despite the weather. Most of the year people can still practice sports outdoors if you avoid the midday sun, but you also provide indoor environment. The machines in this gym, these sports fitness machines, they generate electricity, so we reduce our energy footprint. The semi-Olympic size pool is free for all the residents. And all of those facilities have come together to be able to partner with Dubai Fitness Challenge. And we did so last year, whereby we hosted events, 30-minute events and longer during a 30-day period. It is about getting people out, and there is so much focus in Dubai on getting out and really adopting an active lifestyle. But communities have to enable the active lifestyle. Hence, again, the central role of communities. Communities is also about learning. It can be formal, it can be non-formal or informal education. Now, the schools worldwide have been shook by the lockdown and now by the repercussions of the lockdown. So we need schools to be agile, to be able to accommodate and to perfect distance learning and blended learning. As the schools reopen in a couple of weeks, there's going to be many voices and many opinions as to how this should occur and how to uphold the highest standards of sanitation including physical distancing if that is needed. However, schools really need to be agile and need to be embraced within the community. The beauty of having schools embedded in communities in Dubai is that you can walk to school and you can cycle to school, which is perhaps very common in some Scandinavian countries in Europe, but less so in this part of the world. And this is a unique attribute to many communities in Dubai. But again, communities, it is not only about 3 bedrooms and 4 bedrooms and studios, it's also about inclusion. And how can a community within its boundaries, how can it provide a space for people with disabilities or people of determination? Specifically, we thought that as part of our master plan community, we need to provide a space which is today called Sanat, which in Arabic means to support or to shoulder. And Sanat is really an assisted living, learning and rehabilitation center for children and adults of determination. It is quite spacious, as you see, because it is about coming to a space after a diagnosis for a limited time period and having access to activities, animals, farming, sports, and also blending into the community. And this old, century-old saying about it takes a village to raise a child, well, indeed, it takes a community also to raise people and to raise children. So what better place than to host people of determination inside popular, established communities. And now I'm going to shift. I'd like to speak about environmental sustainability, which is really where the future lies, and communities in Dubai are working hard to embrace sustainability. The challenges are immense, but COVID-19 gave us perhaps a glimpse of the future in terms of how to manage mobility, how to manage shopping, how to manage our energy, how to manage our food supply, and so on and so forth. For us, from our perspective, we believe that communities, and this is something that we are mainstreaming and working in partnership with government entities, with Dubai Land Department, with Dubai Municipality, with DEWA, with RTA, etc. This is what we believe is the future, and this is how communities will be future ready. Pandemic or no pandemic, but this is where the consumer is moving towards. And so communities can address environmental sustainability in many ways. We believe that we need to address at least those 6 interconnected themes. So food production, urban farming, how can communities support that? Energy management, it's not only about DEWA providing electricity. How can communities also manage their electricity? Water, likewise, yes, it comes from the utility, but what can we do to enhance water demand, water usage, water treatment, and reuse? Buildings for all new cities and all developers and consultants now, watching or attending this webinar. How can we build something that is greener, not only through labeling, but greener in terms of embodied energy, in terms of passive design, in terms of incorporating recycled materials, or incorporating materials that are manufactured locally in the UAE. Mobility, how do we design and how do we operate communities that embrace smart mobility, where people can move without emissions, where goods and services can flow without emissions within the community. And lastly, it's about waste management. There is way too much waste on the planet, and I think we are all culprits of consumerism and victims of consumerism, perhaps. So there is again a responsibilities on designers, urban developers, and architects to provide an infrastructure that supports waste minimization, waste sorting, and then waste recycling downstream. I'm going to walk through those 6 tiles. I have 2 or 3 slides per tile, mostly photos and images to convey the meaning and the messaging of the future of sustainable living. So food and urban farming, this is something we can integrate. All communities today can integrate urban farming within their boundaries. We're all limited by built-up area, we know, and so we have a public realm which can provide different services, including farming. And farming need not consume a lot of lands, such as conventional farming. We can accommodate farming in different shapes and structures, such as biodomes, but also in shipping containers where we can grow food, in this case, strawberries, vertically. This was done with a French startup by the name of Agricole. We're working with other startups as well in the vertical farming industry, because vertical farming is really experiencing a quantum leap today. And so whereas in most of our mindsets, food comes from a supermarket, which is imported from somewhere, as we embrace the future, it is also about cities and communities coming together to produce food in basements, rooftops, a productive landscape. We have fruit trees and date palms throughout the community, but also we can go all the way down to the level of, so look at this, on the right side, we have something which is rather industrial. 1 square meter of planting area today can produce 90 kilograms of leafy greens and vegetables in 1 year. 1 square meter, 90 kilograms. So if you stack those planting areas, you multiply 90 by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, etc. Well, what if we downsize this and bring it inside the homes? And today there are many, many beautiful devices which will make up your home furniture and that produce food as well, such as these very small scale, scalable home planters. And the focus on food security, again, has increased so much. How can we, because of some uncertainties related to supply chains during shocks or pandemics, well, what if we engage people more in that production? Also, we can produce, food for vegan, like protein foods, such as spirulina, algae, and others within the boundaries of a community. Now, let's move on to energy. Energy is probably the greatest challenge on this planet today. And the world is recognizing the importance and the significance of a low carbon future. And to achieve a low carbon future, we have to transition from being carbon intensive to carbon neutral. One way to do so is to approach master planning with a net zero energy approach. And for us in the sustainable city in Dubai, this is our ambition to become a net zero energy community, whereby we maximize demand side management, which is on the left side, and then we bring in renewable energy uptake on the right side, and we want those two to equal one another, meaning consumption is going to be offset by production, right? This is the design, this is the theory. Let's start with demand side management for new communities and cities. So as developers continue to master plan communities in Dubai and the region in response to demand, it is about avoiding the sun. This is conventional wisdom which we need to recycle. It is not about maximizing exposure to the sun. That is something they would do in Scandinavia, but not here in the GCC. So by a simple orientation, what we call passive design, we're able to avoid much of the sun and block the heat outside of those units. So on the left side, you see the southern facade, south-facing walls. On the right side, you see the balconies and the windows, which maximize shading. But on demand side management, it's also how we build. It's about insulation, and it's about an efficient air conditioning system. It's about appliances in the kitchen, LED lighting, water heating, using solar energy. And all of those features, when we combine them, we're able to reduce the energy use intensity of homes in Dubai. In the case of the sustainable city in Dubai, we were able to reduce it from an average greater than 300 kilowatt hour per square meter per year, which was a predominant energy use intensity value before the green building standards became mandatory in 2014. So from 300 down to 95. So we achieved 95. This is verified through non-invasive load monitoring. And this is really based also on thermal values. So this table shows you that we can exceed, we already have a good set of standards, but we can also exceed these standards so that we reduce consumption and emissions further. And then we get to, that's demand side management, and then we get into renewable energy production. And luckily, Dubai was really at the forefront when it comes to renewable energy uptake through what is today known as the Shams Dubai initiative. The utility, Dubai Electricity and Water Authority, encourages, since 2014, households and building owners to install PV panels on rooftops. We can also install PV panels on non-residential units, which we shall see. And in the case of the sustainable city, we have deployed between 5 and 8 kilowatt peak on rooftops. When you multiply that by 500 villas, plus rooftops of the mosque and the school and other facilities, so far we have reached 8.1 megawatt peak of electricity. Now, what does that mean for communities and community management in Dubai? It means that our consumers have changed. Whereas in the past they used to take everything, they would consume everything. Well, today consumers can also produce electricity. Hence, we call them prosumers or gensumers. The graph that you're looking at is a screenshot of a device, a monitoring device, which gives you real-time data on the energy profile of a villa in the sustainable city. So in gray are the consumption, the loads, the green humps that you see. This is the production in summer. And then the blue line at the bottom are all the appliances which are always switched on, such as TV, Wi-Fi, and the fridge. So this is now accessible at the palm of your hand. And by providing such information to prosumers, they're able to manage their energy consumption better. PV installation is not limited to homes. It is also in all the public areas. So we have the parking areas covered. They are solar shaded. We have the school parking areas. We have the mixed use development. We have also the Autism village, and we have the mosque. All of them have access to PV modules. The beauty about having an excess or a surplus electricity, because during some times of the year, you would actually produce, within the plot, you would produce more electricity than consume. And here you have the option of shifting the surplus from 1 month to the next month, so that nothing is lost. It is credited to your DEWA account, and then it is consumed during the subsequent months. When we move to water, communities also have to think of how to manage their water consumption. We all receive desalinated water, which is energy intensive, which means we have to reduce our water consumption to bring down the carbon footprint, or help bring down the carbon footprint of Dubai and make it a low carbon city by 2050. So that means the water that comes to us has to be optimized, which means all the plumbing, all the fixtures are water efficient. And they can also go through a retrofit whereby they become even more efficient. So it's all about the flow rates, gallons per minute or liters per minute. And then the water that is evacuated or collected from the city is treated, and then it is returned, and it is stored in an open water environment, which is monitored every month. And that provides a beautiful water feature. It's good for biodiversity, for birds, and it also modifies or enhances the microclimate in the community. Ultimately, the sustainable city was able to reduce water consumption per capita by 40% compared to the average in Dubai. Water monitoring is equally important. We might be very efficient in a home, but if there is a leak outside, anywhere in the community, then this is water lost. And those are avoidable losses. And so through various monitoring devices, pulse metering or other technology, we're able to monitor consumption and leaks at the level of villas and below ground. Building materials. Now, so how do we build? It is about building more efficient. It is about avoiding the sun. It is about embracing new construction methods. It is about cradle-to-cradle philosophy and principles. It is about embodied carbon. And it is also about integrating recycled materials as much as possible. Rubberized tracks can be made of recycled tires. The interlock system that we have throughout the community helps us reduce or avoid heat islands, because the interlock is a light-colored surface and it doesn't absorb. It has a high solar reflectance, so it doesn't absorb heat as asphalt would. But when it comes to the construction material, it goes back to heat values, thermal insulation, so that we reduce energy consumption. Now, this topic is also gaining a lot of attention, and it's all about mobility. So we need to move within Dubai, we need to move within communities or between communities, and then within communities. And all of that, perhaps the question is, what is the future of mobility? Well, for us, since many years, we embrace what is today called smarter mobility or future mobility. And it's three things across the board. It's about electrification. There's going to be more and more electric vehicles and fewer internal combustion engine vehicles, or gas and diesel vehicles on the roads in Dubai and the rest of the world. In fact, by 2038, according to the latest estimates, it is believed that new car sales, EV car sales, will exceed new internal combustion engine car sales by 2038. So electrification is one. We also need to maximize walkability and bikeability, and then we need to embrace driverless transport and also car sharing. All of that is happening at the same time, and a few more. So in those pictures, we show you it's about how do we provide a space which is for the people, not for the cars. So the cars have to move and have to make way. 80% of the sustainable city is pedestrian friendly and bikeable. Electrification, it's about having the infrastructure in place. So whereas we already have 12 charging stations for EVs, electric cars in the community, we need to now transition to something called smart charging, because as the number of electric vehicles goes up, that means less gasoline at the pump, but it means more electricity consumed, more higher loads within the community. So that is something new communities have to plan for and accommodate. Smart charging is about managing the loads by multiple cars parked at the same time and plugged in. So again, through technology, we can embrace the uptake of electric vehicles. Also for inter-community transport, we provided 60 buggies. These are electric buggies, zero emission. They are powered from solar panels. They are geofenced, speed limited, live tracking. All of that facilitates movement within the community. And this is how we're able to track the vehicles, the buggies, and every resident in the sustainable city above the age of 14 is able to monitor this, and using an RFID card is able to access the buggies. And we have a cap on the usage, on the daily usage, so that we encourage good behavior and we don't want to encourage social driving. But again, when we talk about the future, so I mentioned briefly driverless transport. Why so? Because Dubai is committed to really accelerate smart and driverless transport in the coming decade. We had a pilot project coordinated with the Roads and Transport Authority, whereby a driverless shuttle was driving around the farm. It is a 1.4 kilometer loop without a driver. It is also speed limited, and it detects all the obstacles. So this was an experience for the community, to experience driverless transport, and also for the RTA to understand how we can integrate driverless transport in established communities. In the middle, you see another pilot project which we hope to launch, which is based on car sharing, but specifically electric vehicle car sharing. So for people who cannot afford an electric vehicle or would like to play and test an electric vehicle, or they are considering an EV purchase in the future, we are providing a small fleet of electric vehicles at their disposal. And then through a smart app, they can use the cars. This is station-based, so the cars have to return to the community. And then lastly, we saw an explosion of micro-mobility in the world leading up to COVID, and now during COVID as well. I believe this has been accelerated. This has caused some issues and challenges for major European cities because of their number and because they were unregulated. So now we need to, and the RTA is looking into how to accommodate micro-mobility in communities for the safety of the commuter, the driver, and for the pedestrian. So it's about safety and it's about regulation. And lastly, when we talk about waste, which is the last component of environmental sustainability, it is about designing communities which support, enable, encourage waste minimization, including single-use plastics and others. So many programs can be initiated inside communities, and they can also trickle down from Dubai-wide, Dubai-based commitments already announced, such as single-use plastics. Second, it's about providing the infrastructure, such as the sorting bins on the left side in the homes, and also sorting stations and receptacles outside and at the curbside, so that we really make good practices very easy to adopt. That's really the simple trick and the simple truth of waste management. You have to make sorting easy and convenient to all the residents. But also we need to provide an avenue, a channel to collect other waste. And by other waste, I mean electronic waste, spray cans, used cooking oil. All of those waste items should not be mixed with the rubbish, and those have to be collected separately, as we do here in the sustainable city. To summarize environmental sustainability, well, we have many systems in place, and there's been so much discussion and conversation, and we continue to talk about it, and now it's even accelerated, about future cities. And are future cities smart? Are smart cities part of the future? Are they sustainable? So there's a lot of play on words. But here's one definition that I have embraced, and I believe this really explains what smart cities can achieve. So smart cities is an urban ecosystem. It's a built environment which places emphasis on the use of digital technologies. All kinds of digital technologies, IoT, cloud, etc. And why so? Well, because we want to drive efficiencies in existing social, environmental, and economic processes. So we use technology to drive efficiencies. It's not technology for the sake of technology. It's not technology for the sake of a green economy. It's technology to drive efficiencies in existing social, environmental, and economic processes. And these are all platforms that we use, and they generate data, live data, which feeds into a dashboard, whether it's from smart air conditioning or weather station or inverters, load monitoring, smart street lighting, smart charging, body management, and all of that feeds into a dashboard because communities should keep their pulse on their performance, their impact in terms of water, energy, food, waste, mobility, products, CO2 savings, economics, demographics, etc. Ultimately, it's beautiful to see dashboards produced by communities. It goes well with disclosure and with future cities. And talking about future cities, we also have within the sustainable city, the plot boundary, we have provision for an institute, which is currently under construction. The purpose of that institute is really to connect all the dots, to support and facilitate applied research, provide training, support and incubate startups, and then organize events and conferences, all related to sustainability. And this, hopefully, inshallah, as we say, will be a carbon neutral facility in 2021. So again, the point is communities can do much more than provide 3 and 4 bedroom units. They can really become a vector and an agent of change. Lastly, economic sustainability. Just a few slides to convey to you what we mean. Well, ultimately, communities in Dubai have to be mindful of the cost of living. This is how we draw people to Dubai. This is how we make living in Dubai more attractive. And so if we can provide a lifestyle in a community whereby the cost of living goes down, then it becomes certainly more interesting. So this table shows you for 3, 4, and 4 bedroom garden villas, what are the savings that tenants and homeowners can expect, and additional savings that homeowners and investors can expect in terms of energy efficiency, that's demand side management, in terms of renewable energy uptake, and then in terms of avoided service and maintenance fees, which is 0 in the sustainable city. And so those savings really make living, sustainable living, more attractive and certainly more attainable. If you ask me about solar, oh, it looks expensive. It is not expensive anymore. We did a levelized cost of electricity for the PV modules which were installed in the community in 2015, 2016. And with those numbers that are today 4 years old, because the market has evolved, we achieved a levelized cost of electricity of 7.3 US cents per kilowatt hour, which translates into 27 fils. 27 fils is as low as the lowest tariff charged by DEWA, which means with capex of 2015, we were able to achieve the lowest slab of the utility. So that means that if we install PV modules today, tomorrow, in the future, other communities, the price and the levelized cost of electricity will be even lower and therefore more attractive. This graph shows you, as we monitor the villas, we try to ensure that the units, the villas, maintain a consumption, electricity consumption, below the 2,000 mark. And why 2,000? Because this is the lowest slab in Dubai. The next one is up to 4,000, then 6,000, and then above 6,000. So in orange is my consumption, and for the villas in blue, below the 0 line, is my production. And then you see a blue line, and the blue line shows you the net DEWA bill incurred, typically incurred in the sustainable city. And notice that it is consistently below the green line, meaning it is consistently within the first slab. but the community as well. So we need to think about who's managing the community. So we need communities which are efficient and reduce the cost of management. We're now looking at PV production in all the public facilities and in the public domain in the sustainable city. Notice now how the orange bars and the blue bars are almost equal consistently throughout the year. And in yellow, so between February and May, and then again in December, production exceeds consumption. So the community is net positive during 5 months of the year. In 2019, the community was able to offset 88% of its public or its electricity consumption in the public domain. Finally, I'd like to just conclude with a slide which sums it all. There are many, many communities in Dubai. Future communities must embrace sustainability, must be future ready, must do everything that has been pitched here in this presentation, because we now have a proof of concept, and we are in discussions with many other entities in Dubai to mainstream and spread this knowledge. And so the word cloud that you see on the right, this is something communities have to achieve, have to embrace in the future, from hydroponics, community building, car sharing, load balancing, approaching climate neutral growth, renewable energy, energy efficiency, low carbon, passive design, smart irrigation, aeroponics, zero energy. These are all the terms that we hear about every day, and they can all come together in a community. And so communities are really very powerful and influential when it comes to supporting Dubai towards this transition, the transition to becoming the city with the lowest carbon footprint, to be modern, to embrace the future, to embrace technology, to be future ready. And prop tech as well in the real estate industry is only one such example. So with that, I'd like to conclude and hand it back to you, Karen.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Karim, for that insightful presentation. We will go ahead and take some time for the questions now. And just a reminder, please be sure to type your questions into the chat box on the right-hand side of your screen. And if we are unable to answer your questions, then Mr. Karim will address all the unanswered questions after the webinar, and we will send to you the response via email, right? And so let's take a look at the questions. Okay. Mr. Karim, will we see an alternative sustainable city in Dubai?
We must. And again, the purpose today was not to tell you that there is only one sustainable city. The purpose is really to inspire others to do the same. What we've done here is now achievable. It's a proof of concept. And so with this POC, other developers, other countries can take it and replicate it. So we have been in discussion with other entities in Dubai to emulate, to replicate this experience. We're also in discussions in Oman, in other parts of the UAE, and other parts of the Arab world as well. So this is our ambition. And I believe we have to increase the ambition, to achieve the goals of the Paris Agreement and of the SDGs. So yes, stay tuned. Stay tuned.
Okay, we're excited for that. The second question, I guess you already discussed it in your topic, but would you like to discuss further? The question is, what's the future of communities looking like?
So to summarize, the future, in a couple of words, they have to be low carbon. We all have to think like this. They have to be productive, meaning the community can produce electricity, can make water from thin air, can produce food. So future communities have to do all of the above. Future communities have to embrace smart mobility. Future communities also have to integrate non-residential facilities and services. We need communities to create jobs as well. Otherwise, we end up with silos. We live in one part of the city, and then we work in the other part of the city. We need to somehow blend those so that we reduce commute, travel distance. In the case of future lockdowns, then people still have access to their workspace, or better yet, they're able to incorporate work from home and homeschooling. So future communities have to do all of the above. And and need to consider themselves also a living laboratory. I think when we talk about PropTech, for example, when we say real estate, PropTech needs to be tested. So yes, we bring many ideas and talent from all over the world. This is what Dubai does really well. But all of those ideas and solutions have to be tested, and preferably not in a lab. They have to be tested in communities as well, right? So we need communities to speak this language and to accommodate change and to accommodate technology.
Okay, really very helpful for that. Our third question is, what are the new attractive packages for buyers and investors? If you have any idea about it.
Well, we're following, of course, the market. We see what's happening all around us, just in a 2, 3, 5 kilometer radius, and there's much more flexibility, and there is a big choice today on the market, right? Dubai, the real estate market in Dubai has matured considerably in the past decade, and in terms of sizes, so now you have really a range of sizes in terms of cost of living. In terms of payment plans, so how do you access your first home, whether you're renting or you're purchasing and investing? So payment plans are becoming increasingly attractive and affordable. And then people need to migrate also, because they want to start, their budget allows them to start with a 1-bedroom, then they want to migrate to a 2-bedroom or a 3-bedroom. Again, Dubai provides this ability to do so because of the offering and because of those payment plans. We're also, when we talk about facilities and amenities as well, we're looking at the VR space, virtual reality, and how VR can also allow investors outside of Dubai to literally experience all the amenities offered by a community and all the details offered by a prospective purchase. And so through that experience as well, Dubai is able to attract more people and to find the right assets.
Yes. All right. Okay. So our next question, Mr. Karim, there's a notion that being sustainable is expensive. We'll see a drop in price when it comes to this.
We continue to battle this notion, and I think we're all in it together. So let me give you an analogy. The first electric car was very expensive, right, by Tesla, let's say. Most of us, 99% of the people, could not afford it. Only 1% could. And then came the third model called Model 3, and now suddenly 25% of the people can afford it. In many ways, when you are a trendsetter, when you are the innovator, the first product that's going to hit the market may be more expensive. However, when you embrace it and adopt it and you begin to replicate it, then the price drops. But from our perspective, sustainability is not more expensive because you need to address it 360. If you come in and say, I'm just going to put modules on the rooftop, it's not really going to make economic sense. But if you're designing a master plan community and new homes, and then you integrate all the sustainability features in one go, you have savings and you have perhaps cost increments during construction. So as a developer, it is affordable. As an end user, and I showed you the last slide, which shows the direct economic benefits to tenants, investors, and homeowners. So this conversation needs to mature. But we have said, and we stand by our position from day one, sustainability need not be more expensive on condition that you plan for it.
Very well said. So I think we're moving to the next question. Will we see more vertical farming taking place outside sustainable city?
Absolutely. One of the pictures that you saw is from a farm in Sharjah by the name of VeggieTech, and there are so many vertical farms mushrooming in Dubai. Now, two challenges. One is commercial viability, and most of them have yet to demonstrate commercial viability. And this has to do with off-takers, it has to do with cost, it has to do with distribution, it has to do with spoilage rate. And the second challenge is, how can we make these vertical farms more flexible and whereby we can integrate it in communities as well, so that we reduce the distance, right, the mileage between the farm and the table. So there is a commercial equation, and then there is an end-user experience. And I think those two can come together as we see more and more vertical farms. And vertical farming is not only about salads and spinach, right? It's also mushrooms, it's chili, it's wasabi, it's kale, it's tomatoes, berries as well. So I think we're going to experience an explosion in vertical farming, if these two conditions are met: commercial viability and end user experience.
Yes, all right. For sure, we can tackle all those challenges that you've stated.
Yeah.
Yes. Next, I think before we close down, has the buying behavior changed for consumers during the pandemic, and how this impacted the sustainable city?
Yeah, good question. We're looking into that. So I'll give you a few pointers. This is a great question, which should invite academia as well to look into it. One, we noticed that electricity consumption went up. We have the numbers by about 10 to 12%, like for like, spring 2020 compared to spring 2019, simply because electricity consumption shifted from schools and office buildings to villas. Water consumption went up as well, because you spend more time at home, perhaps you shower more, perhaps you have small pools, inflatable pools. So unfortunately, a lockdown, a pandemic has caused water and electricity consumption to go up. On the flip side, we've also seen the adoption of greener behavior. People have become a little bit more conscious of how they dispose of their waste, because they don't want to see waste piling up outside. And I think the greatest impact we've seen is a community coming together. And what is a community without its people? During the lockdown, we have access to rooftops, so people could socialize from the rooftops and maintain physical distance. As soon as the lockdown was lifted and people could, come out for limited exercise time, they immediately had access to sports facilities and amenities. And so people came together through common needs while maintaining physical distancing, etc. And so certainly people have started to think much more. And also the whole school experience. I think this has been a very heavy burden on many people, how to shift instantly from going to school 7 hours a day to spending 5 hours at home, in front of a screen. Meaning we need more devices, unfortunately, we need more screens at home, we need perhaps to increase our communication payment plan because we need more data. So quite a few things have changed. Some of those behaviors will return to their normal before COVID, and I believe some behaviors will persist.
So a lot of things to really cope up. I'm giving you one last question, Mr. Karim. What is needed to build more new resilient communities at light speed? What can and what the stakeholders, future partners, and citizens do about it?
You say at lightning speed?
Yes.
Okay, so there's an emphasis in the question on how can we build resilient communities quickly, right?
Yes.
So
yes.
I think we have two. Scenarios on the table. We have existing communities which need to become more resilient. That's the stock in Dubai and in the rest of the world. And then we have new communities, master plan communities and developments. So they need to approach resilience in similar ways and in different ways. We've seen across the world that existing communities have embraced this transition to low emission transport, micromobility, bicycle lanes, highways. So for the first time in history, we see that the roads are actually shrinking. The space allocated, the right of way is shrinking in favor of other modes of transport. So that's what existing cities can do. Existing cities can also begin to embrace renewable energy uptake. New cities can do all of the above to become more resilient. We need communities that really rethink the master plan in terms of how much space is allocated for the home working, home schooling, how much space is allocated for recreation and sports and wellness. How to accelerate, how to expedite, it's really about minds coming together. Expo 2020 in many ways aims to achieve just that, connecting minds. And we need to, this is not just the job of an architect or an engineer. We need government, we need industry, private sector, developers, we need consumers, and we need academia. They need to kind of have that conversation flowing so that we enable the cities of the future to become a reality as soon as possible.
Yeah, for sure, there's a lot of amazing ideas to come up right after.
There's a lot of work for everybody.
Yes, a lot of work. So anyhow, Mr. Karim, unfortunately, we're running short of time and our time is up. As we mentioned to you earlier, we'll be reverting to everyone to the queries via email. And Mr. Karim, is there anything else you wanted to say before we wrap up this webinar?
I think we need to be hopeful. I think we need to be hopeful about the future, despite all the bad news that most of the world has been digesting and grappling with. There is always hope, and Dubai is really a society which makes you believe, makes you believe in the future, makes you hopeful. And when it comes to real estate, when it comes to communities and adopting sustainable living, enjoying life, minding the planet more, I think all of that is coming together. It's just a matter of time, but we have to be hopeful. COVID-19 is not here to stay. We might have to coexist for some time, but eventually there's going to be something beyond. So we have to shift from before COVID to after COVID.
Right. Okay. So there's two words from Mr. Karim: hope and believe. So great. Thank you so much for your time and really great webinar. And thank you all, everyone, for joining us today. We really appreciate you being here. And of course, to download today's presentation, please visit our website, www.iadubai.ae. And we'll also be sending all emails to get your feedback on today's webinar with a link to download the presentation. And so we are also conducting a short survey to get your feedback on today's webinar. And the link to the survey will be shared with you via the chat and via email. And please follow us on our social media channels to keep yourself updated. And again, thank you so much for joining us today. Masalam. Bye.
Thank you.
I've chosen Dubai for its outdoor activities. It's a luxurious lifestyle. There's so much to do out there.
It's secure, it's safe, it's a great schooling system.
We wanted something with lots of green open spaces where our children can go out and play.
دبي أفضل فرص لأي شخص من أي جنسية.
The beaches are really nice. The infrastructure out here is next level.
Dubai offers tremendous potential for real estate, and you can be sure that you can get a good return on investment. I would say currently it's a good market to buy a property.
It's a great place for a family and it's a great place to invest overall.
أنا سعيد جدا لامتلاك منزل في دبي ومتأكد أن دبي المكان الأفضل للاستثمار.
It's definitely the place to be.
دبي بيت الثاني.